Hey guys, it's me, Miss P. I'm here to talk about an artist that's pretty cool. His name is Gustav Klimt. And today we will actually be making a work of art that is inspired by some of the patterns and some of the patchwork collage elements that he uses in his artwork. Now, I'm thinking that you have probably seen one of his paintings. You may have not. It really depends on maybe how many museums you've been to, or whatever, But I think when you see his work, you will like it. It's pretty cool. So anyway, Gustav Klimt was born in 1862. And so he was in a period that we talk a lot about in art. And in this period, he was actually recognized for his talent, which I think is pretty cool. Not all artists are. So Gustav Klimt was a symbolist painter. What is a symbolist painter? It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. The way I'll say it is this. Gustav Klimt was very inspired by Japanese art, which used a lot of symbols over and over again to represent things. For example, a lotus flower, or a koi fish, or a tiger. These things all became important symbols that were repeated over and over and were meant to say something about the painting. Gustav Klimt did something very similar. He made these beautiful paintings of people wrapped up in sort of quilts or gowns or something like that, big draped clothing over their bodies. And he patterned this clothing with circles and lines and swirls and things like that. And he also put gold leaf and silver leaf and platinum leaf on his paintings. What is that? Well, I'll tell you. It's when you have a very, very thin piece of gold or silver or platinum rolled very, very thin. And a lot of painters will layer gold leaf on their paintings, and it'll look like that sort of section of the painting was painted in gold. It's very beautiful. And to me, because Gustav Klimt's paintings also often showed depictions of people embracing, there's one very famous painting that he has called The Kiss. I think his paintings are sort of talking about the value of these relationships that he's showing in his artwork, how magical it is. Anyway, we are going to take some of the elements that Gustav Klimt used here for our own artwork. We are going to be showing a person underneath a quilt made up of different patterns and designs and colors. And it's very peaceful and beautiful and happy. And I'm very excited for it. So let's get started. Okay, I have some expectations to share about this project. And I'm also going to tell you what materials I used for the first part of this project. So, what do we have here? I drew this, and I used a pencil, an eraser, a black Sharpie, and a bunch of different crayons. I'm also going to say for materials, if you have any metallic gel pens, any metallic paint pens, any metallic crayons, anything like that, I would use them on this piece, even metallic paint. I would use them because, as you remember, we talked about the gold leaf aspect of Gustav Klimt paintings, and I think it would really add to this piece if you have some metallic element in it. But if you don't have any of those materials, obviously you don't have to put metallic features in this piece of art. Okay, now on to expectations. Draw yourself. Don't draw me. I don't want to see my face here. I know what you guys look like. So, first expectations, draw yourself. Second expectation is, I have 10 patterns on this little sheet of paper. I want you to have at least 6. If you want to do more, be my guest, but you only really need to put 6. Lastly, you can use some of the patterns that I created here, but I want you to invent 2 of your own types of patterns. Do a pattern of stars, of skull and crossbones, of waves, of fish, of hearts, of polka dots. There are a million different types of patterns that you can choose from. But, so yeah, you can use a lot of mine, but 2 have to be your own. Let's get started. All right, here we go, ladies and gents. I'm starting with an oval over the top, basic head shape that we got there. I'm doing some of my own hair, and it's sort of lying across the pillow, you'll see, because I'm lying flat down, so my hair is kind of going outward. Now I'm going to do a pillow. I'm doing a pillow around my hair, and pillows are pretty simple. You've got those little U shapes at the edges that make it look very pillowish. Hairline, I'm drawing some U's for my eyes and a similar shape for my nose. And then just a very, just basic look. And now here we go, I'm drawing my quilt. I sort of wish I had it more draped around myself, like more like Gustav Klimt. But this is a different project, so I think it's all good. Now I'm taking my pencil and I'm dividing out a bunch of different sections on here. And I would be careful not making too many sections, because if you make too many, obviously, you're going to have to fill them all and not want to. Another note here that I wanted to point out, I am using metallic crayons, which is great if you have metallic crayons. If you don't have metallic crayons, obviously you can't use them. But I'm going and I'm doing some of these circles that sort of look like Gustav Klimt stuff. He tends to have like eye shapes, and I didn't do that in this pattern, so I would recommend that you do that. I mean, if you look up Gustav Klimt, there are a lot of patterns that you can use and look at. There's no shortage of those. So here's my first pattern, and I'll go and make some more with some other crayons. And you can just watch that. It's not anything too crazy. I'm going with some flowers, which always look nice. Adding some little flowers where I can. Making them look good, even though, it's just one section of my pattern. Since this is a 1-week project, I'm saying, take your time on these nice patterns. And then next week you can worry about touching things up as you please and, putting the watercolor on there and everything. For now, you can just focus on making these patterns look really nice. Starting here on my third pattern, this one's pretty simple. I'm just going to go and do, the very basic crisscross. And if you look at Gustav Klimt's paintings, you'll see some shapes like that, and usually they have little circles inside. This is another pattern, a very Gustav Klimt-ish pattern that I'd suggest doing. You can take from my patterns, but looking back on this project, I wish I made them more authentic to the actual patterns that he uses in his artwork. And I would suggest you do that because, he's a master. He's got the great colors and all that good stuff, all that gold and red and some green and all those things. So you can do it more, well, I guess you could do it more contemporary, modern. I know you guys love the modern art. You could do it more that way, or you could try to do it more Klimt-ish. I mean, like, the pattern I'm doing right here is just sort of, it's the same pattern I did with the green pattern, but with squiggly lines, as you'll see here. So I'm not getting too complicated. That's why I'm saying, yeah, you only have to do 6 patterns, but you could totally do more. Right here I'm just doing squares, and this actually came out really cute too. I would recommend doing something like this. You could do overlapping circles as well, overlapping stars, really overlapping any shape would be cool and have the same effect. And, if you use different shapes, you can do a bunch of different pattern squares with this same technique. With these swirls, this is the first one that I did that's very Gustav Klimt-esque, because he uses the swirls probably in most paintings that I show in the beginning here. I feel like that's one that's really indicative of his work. This next one I think I'm also going to make pretty simple. Experimenting with stuff, seeing what looks good, and then you guys can see what you like from here. But if you ask me, I didn't really like that stripe pattern, and I wouldn't do it again. Live and learn. I'm sorry it's so hard to see here. So this is another important part. I'm going around, I took like a bronze sort of crayon. Like I said, I'm going for those metallic crayons because, you know, matches with the whole gold leaf theme. And obviously we don't have our own gold leaf. But you can see here, I'm just drawing the lines nice and thick. They give it a nice strong outline. And then by adding those little short lines, it creates the look of a stitched together quilt, which I feel like brings this together really nicely. And I'm thinking that once we do the watercolor over top of it next week, it won't seem as bright and intense as it does now. But I don't really mind the look of it. You can use whatever color crayon you like for this. You could even use the Sharpie if you wanted. It's up to you. Now I'm going same idea of the swirl, but a big open swirl. And I found this gold crayon, and I'm going to use that to put it into my hair, into this big swirl. Same idea with the themes of metallic elements. And then the last thing I do is just some basic polka dots. Another classic good idea for looking for a pattern. Then I think I'm going to finish up by doing my head in Sharpie. After adding, of course, a couple of lines, I'll grab a Sharpie and finish this up. So that'll make my head pop. I know the lighting is not great in this video. You'll have to forgive me, guys, for that. I wish the lighting was a bit better. But I'm finishing this up, and I think it looks cool. So just a reminder, next week we're going to be throwing in some watercolors on our quilt and getting everything fixed up and beautiful, adding the final details. I thought it'd be nice to give you guys 2 weeks to do this project, so it's extra good. But I'm pretty pleased. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. So, see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.